Welcome to What's Your Story? Thank you for joining us today. We have an interesting, award-winning photographer for you to meet. His name is Eric Courtney, and Eric's originally from Chicago, but now he's a pretty well-known photographer here in Las Vegas. So Eric, what made you get from Chicago to here and become a photographer? You weren't doing photography before.
Well, I was. First of all, thank you for having me on the show today, Judy. Pretty much, I professionally doing photography is different than just doing photography, but pretty much all my life I've had a camera in my hand since I was a kid. I was thinking about that the other day and going back to when my mom had one of the little brownie cameras.
Yes, yes.
Remember those with the
I
little
had
flip
one
up
of those,
Yeah. And those are, you see those now, and those are a very collectible item because of the quality they produced and what people use them for and whatnot. But that's one of the first cameras that I had. And then through the years, I progressed up to, remember the 110 little cartridges you put in? And you had the little flash on top and that. And then I progressed up to my very first DSLR when I was in college in Chicago. Big deal. And I went around and photographed architecture. But it was all for me to do, and I really didn't share it with anybody else. It was a hobby, yeah. In addition, while I was going to college and whatnot. And then I spent many years in the industrial industry, and then it wasn't until we had the opportunity to move to the Las Vegas Valley that I decided, you know what, it's time for me to pursue my passion of photography and share it with other people. Mm-hmm. It's very interesting sharing your art and photography with other people to see what kind of reactions you get. But yeah, yes. My whole purpose is to share photography that makes people smile and engage and whatnot. So.
Yeah, your photography does do that. You're very creative. I love your work. Yeah. And what is your favorite thing to photograph? What is the favorite photographs that you've done? I mean, I know we have some here today. We're going to show people.
Yeah, I have a few, but photographers. There's a lot of photographers that like landscape photography, or they do wedding photography, or they do portraits and whatnot. I really find going to a zoo and photographing animals just one of the funnest things to do, because you never know what they're going to do.
No, you don't.
You never know if they're going to stare at the camera, and you capture that one image, and you've got to be ready for, or they may stick out their tongue, or they may wave their hand or something, and you just sit there and just snap, snap, snap. And that's probably the funnest for me, because, with photography, there's photography that pays the bills, and then there's photography that you have fun with. And that's the part that I really like to do. Yeah. So, and also doing child portraits. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are really into that now. And they're just fun because, again,
you don't know what little kids are going to do.
They're just cute. Every baby is cute no matter what you do. So,
yeah. Well, show us some of your work.
One of the things we were talking about, so this is one of my recent favorites.
Ooh, I love that.
And it is a giraffe, and this was taken at the Living Desert out by Palm Springs. Mm-hmm. Early this year. And what was fun about it is they had the giraffe exhibit open. We were still in the pandemic thing, and he was just sitting there, and people were feeding. You could buy like lettuce and stuff and feed the giraffes, but they had these watering, because they really can't bend down to get water real easy. So they had these like rain spouts that come out, and the giraffe was just sitting there and just licking the little drops that came off. And I was able to capture this one photo, and it's just one of my
I love it how his tongue's hanging out.
Yeah, it's just right there, and I just snap, and sat there for about an hour or so, and just got a lot of pictures, and decided, this is one of my favorite ones, and I'm just gonna put it into a canvas print and share it with people. So.
Of course, I love African animals anyway. So.
Oh yeah.
So this is one of my favorites that you've done.
Yeah. So,
yeah, that's great.
That was fun.
Yeah. And I see you've got your crystal ball. Tell us about that.
Well, the crystal ball, I call it my magic glass, and it ties into a piece that I won a Best of Show award for at City Lights Art Gallery in 2021, all photography show. And it's funny, there's all sorts of different types of photography, and there's photographers that plan out these extravagant, projects and executions and whatnot. And then there's the ones where you just spontaneously, you have something like this and you put it someplace, and then you put it someplace and you enter it into a show, not ever expecting that it's going to win something, and then you win best of show, and it's just the craziest thing. So I just happen to have that one here today.
Great, we want to see that.
And I had this made into a canvas for the show. It was just an 8x10 print, and this was taken down in Nelson's Landing, and this is an old Model T car, and they have all these old antique cars out there.
Oh, really?
And I got this from Santa Claus for Christmas, and we were down there, and I said, I need a place to put this, because normally you have like a little holder like this that you put it on, or a little tripod, and I just put it in the radiator cap of the
Really?
of the Model T Ford, and I shot several shots, and I said, God, that looks kind of cool, and this is pretty much an as-is print, a little color enhancement, but not too much. But what's nice about what I call the magic glass is you can see what it does to its surroundings.
Yes.
Basically, it creates a reverse image of inside the magic glass.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So that's my piece behind the magic glass. I've used that in a few other pieces, which I can show a little bit later too. So
that's really beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's beautiful. So what is your very, very favorite thing to photograph?
Very, very favorite thing. I like creating what I call art, and then I get to photograph it, and then I disassemble it so nobody else can ever do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of my favorite things to do, because you could go to Red Rock, or you could go to Chicago, New York, and pictures of the Brooklyn Bridge, pictures of the Big Bean in Chicago, San Francisco, and there's a zillion out there. But what I like to do is create something where it's my idea, I get to collect everything, plan it, execute it, and then it can never be duplicated again. And that's kind of one of the things that I've done. And you've seen some of my pieces
I've seen some of
before.
your pieces that you've done that with buttons and crayons and various things.
Crayons, things around the house. During the beginning of the pandemic, that was one of my favorite things, was just going around the house and finding ordinary things, putting them into groups, and then taking them, photographing them, and then taking them apart.
Yeah.
So they're truly one of a kind to me. That's my piece of art. So do you want to hear about a more recent one that I did?
Yes, I do.
Cool. So during the pandemic and stuff, and here we go. I wanted to get out and, because for 6 months or so, or a year, really couldn't do a whole lot. And there wasn't a lot of places to go, because places were closed, because they didn't have staffing, and you couldn't go to the national park, all this crazy stuff. So when things started to open up, I went out with a friend of mine, Gina Gelbeck Hall, and we just decided, hey, let's go take a day, and let's go up to Beatty, and let's just go see what comes along the way. And I said, well, I've got this idea to execute for a photography show at City Lights Art Gallery that was this year. It was called the Scavenger Hunt. And that was the category where you had to get certain items and then put them into a setting, photograph it, and that became your scavenger hunt.
Wow.
So it was really a lot of fun. So what we did is we drove, there's the sand dunes on the way to Beatty that's off to the left-hand side. And she was gracious enough to take a picture. And this is me out in the, I don't know if you can see that.
We'll blow it up so that everybody will be able to see it.
So it's out in the desert. That's me with the camera. And then I have all my little items inside the scavenger hunt.
I like it.
And that's just kind of the setting. I said, well, get a picture of me, because we'll never be able to do this again.
Yes.
So then this is a kind of what the image looked like after I took it, and I did some alterations to it. And so there's various different things that are in here, including part of the scavenger hunt was a cell phone, a magnet, which happens to be a merman. How I found that, I don't know. And then a toothbrush, and then some cigar holders with sand in them that kind of, so what I was trying to create was kind of a shrine.
Right.
And with a pencil, and then the clock has 1111 on it, and if you're into numerology, 1111 is a huge thing. And then there's keys, and then this little character, which is kind of the guardian of the shrine. Then you've got a light, and then there's the magic ball again.
Yes.
So my magic glass is right in there. Yeah. So
Wow.
it's kind of come, a little bit of a signature piece for me. So
yeah, it's fun. It's a fun piece.
So that was that one, and then
that would make a great puzzle. I work the puzzles on the internet, and that would be a good puzzle.
Oh, that would be a good puzzle, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I'll have to.
You'll have to contact them
Cool.
and tell them.
A nice 1,000-piece puzzle that would take like months
Yes.
to put together.
Yes.
Worked on a few of those. So this is for the show. Then I added my artistic interpretation
I like
of
the
it.
background with that.
Yeah, because I didn't want it to just look like a bunch of stuff inside sand. So I went in and I added my artistic touch to it and kind of gave it a little bit of a busy background, but But the main focus is on the items that are inside the scavenger hunt. So
Yeah. Oh, that's lovely.
yeah. And then this is another with a little bit of a different background in it too.
I like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was fun, but
now,
it was
now, what makes you think of these different backgrounds when you look at it and you say, "Oh, I think I'm gonna put something different in the background"? What makes your brain work like that?
sometimes, I have to take just the original image and just think about it, what I want it to look like and what I'm doing. And, maybe if I'm entering into a show, who or what I might be competing against. You think about all those different factors, and then you start playing around with some of the software, and you see, you know what, I like this, or I like that, or I want to go for this color, or I want to go for this type of background, or I want to have movement, or I want to put in a sky, or so
Yeah.
it all depends on what I'm feeling at the moment too. So
Yeah, because both of those, with the backgrounds being different, they're both exceptional.
yeah, because this one I originally liked, and then I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And then a few days later, I came back in this one. I ended up entering this one into the show.
Did it win?
This one did not win, unfortunately. But
I would have thought it would win.
I would have thought so too. But you never know with judges. So
I know.
But I do have one that did. So this was my other. This was my other one that I did, and this one I was not going to enter in the show because I just wasn't thrilled with it.
Wow, there's a million keys back there.
Well, yes, yeah, and that was my background. So what I did is I set up a kind of a mini studio, if you will, with mirrors, all mirrors, and then I had a bag of blank keys, and that was going to be my background because I was having problems with the reflection and whatnot with all the mirrors and that. So I said, well, you know what, let me just do a key background, and then I added in all the other items, which you saw in the previous print, and this one actually won a ribbon in the show.
That's
And
wonderful.
it was not that I guess they liked everything that was in there, but it had to do with the composition. And that's where you get into judging is you get judges that are very technical oriented, and it's like, this has to be this way and this has to be this way. And then you get judges that are just like, you know what, I like pet portraits, or I like odd things, So you never know. And that's what makes entering into shows, helps you maintain a competitive edge.
Yes. Yeah, because you never know what a judge is going to like. And if you get a different judge on the same show, you would have gotten a different winner.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I do some judging on some shows, and it's interesting when I am on a committee with other judges that we almost always have the same likes and dislikes, which surprises me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was one of the fun things to do. Again, it's just putting your creative mind to use and saying, you know what, I want to do something different and get out there and kind of stretch yourself a little bit too. Because normally that's something I would not have done on my own, just because of, you need to do something like with somebody else, just for safety, but then also to help you with the props and whatnot too. So, yeah.
That's amazing. They're beautiful.
Thank
so
you.
what is it about belonging to a community gallery like City Lights is a co-op gallery? It's not owned by a person, it's owned by the artists themselves. What is it about that makes you like being a part of it so much?
What makes me feel like is I want to be there, I don't have to be there. And that's a big difference. And I enjoy the people that are there. Everybody has a fascinating story, and everybody else wants to be there too. And it's a nonprofit, 501(c), all volunteer organization with a great mission to raise funds for scholarships for high school seniors that are going to pursue a degree in art education in college. So, and it's a really great group of people, and it's the first place where I really went in and I said, you know what, I'm going to show my photography here. And the first show, I actually got an honorable mention for one of the prints that I did. I don't have it with me today, but yeah, and it really it validated. It's like, wow, somebody likes my photography, and it felt really good. It's kind of like when you run your own business and you do your first sale. You always save that first dollar bill, and that's to me, it's an honorable mention, but to me that was best of show.
Oh, I know,
winning
because
that ribbon,
you're so proud that
just to hear your name called.
Yeah.
And it's like Eric Courtney honorable mention, and it was really cool. So the fact that other people liked it, and that piece did sell too at the show.
And maybe not just people you know, but people you don't know, they liked your photography.
That's the biggest compliment, because friends and family are always gonna buy your things or give you, but when it's people you don't know, totally don't know at all, and they validate what you're doing, it really is a good feeling.
Yeah. Now, did you study photography?
I have studied photography over the years. when we moved out here to the Vegas Valley, I decided to pursue another degree in social media marketing, but I focused all my electives on every photography class I could take. I did that when I did my first degree back in Chicago. All my electives were on photography. Mostly back then, it was mostly 35 millimeter photography. My more recent education pursuits has been more digital.
Yes.
And creating digital art and digital photography, which is,
Now, do you use software programs as well to enhance your photographs, mind you?
I do to a certain point. One of the things that I learned that was a huge value, and one of my instructors told me is, he goes, at the beginning of the class, he goes, do you want to be a good editor or do you want to be a good photographer? That changed everything, because I was so good at taking okay pictures and then spending hours editing, and it really forced me into another direction, that I want to be a really good photographer, and I don't want to have to do a lot of editing unless I want to create something really artistic, like this one, or this one has, its artistic touch to it. But there's really not a whole lot I did to this, so it all depends. But there are some other things that I've done where I have gone in and had some fun and replaced and this and that. But
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. What photography? I see you got a Nikon.
Yes, I use Nikon products. There's the three big brands out there: Nikon, Sony, and Canon. And then of course you have the high-end brands, which like Leica and all that.
Yeah.
But I've been with Nikon since the first digital camera that I bought, which was a little 1 megapixel flip thing.
Yeah.
So they all get to the same place. They just kind of go a different route.
Right.
Pretty much.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think it also has to do with who's got them in their hands too.
True.
Yeah, because the photographer sees what the picture is, and you create it from what you see or what you think you could see, right?
Right. Yeah. And try to capture that's the whole thing, is like, I'll have a vision in my mind, like with the desert thing that we did. I'll have the vision, and then it's a matter of setting it up and executing it and getting the camera to capture that vision the way I see it in my head. And that can be the tricky part sometimes.
Now, how do photography and history go together?
I was thinking about this, and more recently, over the years, people think, I have a cell phone, I can take pictures and all that stuff, And then I was thinking, well, how important is photography and history? And Time Life magazine and National Geographic and whatnot, whenever there's major events, or even not major events, there's always the one picture that defines an era or a happening or an event. And one of the ones recently that I saw was a girl just standing with I'm gonna cry, with a crust of bread, and she had a tear running down her eye. And the background was, and there was nobody else with her. And only to read the story is that her parents had been killed because of war, and she didn't know where her next meal was coming from. And how history, that picture defines a moment in history. You think of other pictures, like more recently with the Queen shaking the Prime Minister's hand, and that's the last photograph that was ever taken of the Queen.
Right.
And then you see 3 days later, you see the new Prime Minister meeting King Charles III. Talk about a first week on a job.
Yeah, exactly.
But just those are moments in history that are just captured in a single image, and that's where I think photography is just so important in history, because they do capture those images. And it doesn't have to be somebody that works for Nat Geo or Time Life or anything like that.
Yeah.
It can be anybody.
Anybody can take a picture that is something that everybody wants to remember.
Yeah.
Or that touches someone's life.
Exactly.
Touches your heart.
You make a human connection.
Yeah.
And that's really important. There's a couple groups on Facebook where people post things, and I see people homeless, downtown New York, Chicago, San Francisco, wherever it may be, and they capture those images, and it's like, how did those people get there? What is their story?
Yeah.
Everybody has a story.
I know, I'm fascinated with stories.
And whether it's somebody that's homeless on the street, or it's, some big high-powered whatever, or just you and me. We all have great stories to tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what have you done lately to enhance your artistic ability?
One of the things that I've done more recently is, and one of the things I learned during the COVID and just life in general. As you get a little bit older, you get a little more selective on who you're friends with and who you're around and stuff. And I decided, you know what, I need to surround myself with just positive people and people that will inspire me. And there was something that came up at the gallery. I've always been photography, and I've always joked that I can't do, stick people to save my life. And people are, you need to take up painting and stuff. And I thought about the story you told me one time about your doctor said you need to take up painting. And I've seen your work, and it's like, holy mackerel, And so that inspired me to, there was a brochure that was sitting down the desk one day, and it says, how to paint for the absolute beginner. Absolute beginner. And I said, sign me up. So I signed up, and it was, Terry Thompson did it at the gallery. And it was, it was just, don't make fun of my painting, but I decided to bring this down. But it was one of the funnest days I've had in the longest time. And I realized that, you know what, I can paint.
You can paint.
And this is my little,
I love it.
My little entry into, the little lighthouse, and it was fun.
I love it.
And we had such fun doing it. And at the end of the day, I said, you know what, this isn't a Monet or anything like that, but it was kind of like the honorable mention that I won for my first photography that I entered. I said, you know what, I walked away so proud of this.
Well, you should.
And I've got it hanging in my office. And one of the things that I've also done is somebody told me you need to surround yourself with your successes. And so my ribbons and plaques and all that stuff, because it's a reminder of how good you've been and what you've done and what you've accomplished in life.
Yes.
And so I've got this hanging right on my wall. So when I go on my Zooms and whatnot, it's right up there behind me. So, and, it's fun. I mean,
I'm so proud of you for doing that.
Yeah.
I remember when we talked about it, and you said, I don't think I can paint. But look at you.
Yeah, I did, and there were people in here, but I wasn't real happy with the people because, so I kind of painted over them. I said, I'll paint them in later when I know how to do people, because I had their shadows way off and it looked like they'd lost their arm or something, And so I painted over. And so everybody else had people in there. They said, well, yours is post-COVID. Mine's during COVID with no people around.
I like it. That's
fun. But we just
Yeah.
had a really good time. So
And wasn't that time that you spent doing that, wasn't it good for your soul?
it was very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I was smiling all day long. It was fun.
I think it's one of the best things I've ever done for myself was to go and learn to paint.
Yeah.
And I was what, in my 50s when I learned to paint, at least in my 50s.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah. And people say, well, we're too old to learn new things. We aren't, you never get too old to learn new things, and especially something that's fun.
Yeah.
And that is fun. It's wonderful. I'm so proud of you.
It was, and one of the reasons I share this story is, like you said, people like, oh, I'm too old to do whatever. And I'm like, you know what? No, you're never too old to learn new things and do new things. And that's one of the things I really love about photography is every time every photographer has their own style, the way of doing things and stuff, but you're always constantly learning. There is no I know it all in photography. Absolutely not. I've got this camera here and I've had it for a couple of years. There's still stuff on there that,
I know. We have to be lifelong learners when we're into creativity.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry we're running out of time. I'm having such a good
my
time
gosh.
with you. I didn't realize our time's just gone by. You're so fun.
No, thank you.
But tell our audience how they can get in touch with you or find out more about you. You have a website.
Yeah, I do have a website. So it's Eric David Courtney.
Let's use this one.
Oh, here we go. Okay. Hi. Eric David Courtney, and my email is edc856@gmail.com. You can also find me on fineartamerica.com, search for Eric D. Courtney. And you can also find me on pixels.com and look for Eric D. Courtney.
Great, thank you. Because of you, I signed up with Fine Art America, and now I've got puzzles and pillows and all kinds of things with my art. And it's because of you. It's wonderful.
Well, thank you. I'm glad I inspired you to do that. So, that's what as you get a little bit older, you look for people to inspire you and do new things, and get rid of the negativity and just move forward and do positive things.
Yeah.
That's great. And the Fine Art America and Pixels.com, they have all sorts of crazy fun stuff. And from mouse pads to phone cases to just get a gift.
Yeah, someone can actually get a piece of your art or a piece of your photography without it being very expensive.
No, not at all.
They have a nice gift. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Fun time as always with you. And thank you for joining us, and we hope you'll join us again real soon for another exciting story on What's Your Story?